We give you...
We are down to 2 head coaching jobs available. We started with 8, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are among those teams who have settled on a new head coach. Bruce Arians ended his brief one-year retirement, in air quotes, to take over in Tampa. He will be introduced shortly. In fact, that news conference scheduled for 2:30 Eastern, so we're just minutes away now from an introduction of Bruce Arians as the head coach of the Buccaneers. We will take you there, as we did with Vic Fangio, live to Tampa Bay. Again, he comes in. They've been clear that Jameis Winston is the guy. He'll work with the young quarterback, and this is a man who certainly knows, he wrote the book, so to speak, on working with quarterbacks.
And he's worked with Jameis from their time together at Bruce's football camps in Alabama. And Jameis has been a fan of Bruce Arians, and Bruce Arians has been a fan of Jameis. And so when we talk about the Jets hiring Adam Gase and matching him with Sam Darnold, it's really no different here with Bruce Arians matching him with Jameis Winston to try to get the best of him. And keep in mind here that the Buccaneers general manager Jason Licht worked in 2013 in Arizona with Bruce Arians. There's a comfortable factor between the two sides. They know each other. They know what to expect of each other. And Bruce Arians knows the game of football. He gets to do it in Tampa now.
And that's what, you talked about earlier. We were talking about some coaches just need that time off, maybe to just sit back and breathe and get to know themselves and get to know their families all over again. And that's what I think you see in Bruce Arians, because when he was in Arizona, he had the health issues. There was a lot of stress on him at the time, and he needed to take some time off to get refreshed. And it's great to see him back. I mean, you're talking about one of the great personalities in the NFL, and Bruce Arians.
I said yesterday, if nothing else, Tampa Bay now will win the post-game press conference award, because all things considered, it has gotten more interesting, Teddy, if nothing else.
He expects a lot out of his players. You're gonna recognize his presence at this press conference very, very quickly. Very confident. He'll have all the sayings in the book that can bring, where he can have a relationship with a player and he can give him any type of motivation he may need.
Post-game tailgates, he will host those there as well, I'm assuming. We go now to Tampa.
And at the beginning, we put a checklist together of the things that we were looking for in the head coach with no clear front runner. I have the checklist right here. Well, first, we wanted somebody that would command the room and command the moment, and Bruce checks that. For those of you that know him, you know what I'm talking about. For those that don't, get your earmuffs ready. We wanted somebody with a proven track record, not just as a coach, but also developing players, developing coaches. Bruce checks that. We wanted somebody that was going to bring swagger, and those late 90s teams here in Tampa, early 2000s, Super Bowl, that team was full of swag. Bruce checks that. Last but not least, just that it factor that you really can't explain. But once again, anybody that's around Bruce knows that Bruce has it. I've never been around a guy that has such magnetism about him that players and coaches just instantly want to follow him when he comes. And we're dealing with a lot of emails, texts, and phone calls right now with those coaches. And we're getting close to wrapping up his staff, the staff that he presented to us that he wanted day one that he walked in here. So with all that said, with no further ado, I want to introduce Bruce Arians, the coolest damn coach in the NFL.
That's a little hard to follow, but I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. I'm sure a lot of people wonder why I got back in this business. First, the Glazer family. The family word means a lot to me. And that was when I heard that this job was going to be open, and I have a lot of respect for the coaches who have been here. I thought they did a heck of a job. But family, and then Jason. There's 3 keys to winning in this league: ownership, general manager, head coach combination. Then when you have a quarterback, you got a pretty good start. Like I said, I'm extremely excited. We'll get to all the questions and all those things in a minute. But the thing I missed the most as I was in broadcasting, and if you haven't grown up in a locker room, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But there's something about growing up in a locker room, the bonds and the relationships that you build, building a football team, the ups, the downs, all the things that go in between, probably is what is the thing I love the most about the game. And then I miss the arena. I'd be broadcasting the game, and Obviously, I couldn't use the words I would normally use on television, but the excitement kept building. Then when this opportunity came, all the dominoes, I just like to say the stars aligned, because we have those three things. And then the staff that I wanted and always wanted is available. It's going to be a staff of fantastic teachers. We will have a large staff, do things a little bit different in that in spring when you guys come out to OTAs, you'll see 2 practices going on, because we'll have a staff that can take all our young players and get those 40 to 45 reps that the veterans are getting. You can't find a diamond in the rough if he's standing on the sideline watching. We don't know if a rookie can really learn if he only gets 3 reps. So we're going to have those guys, and we love young players. I love veteran players. But this is a great group. I think we have the core here to win quickly. I'm not about building. I'm about reloading. And with that, I can't say how excited I am to be a Tampa Bay Buck.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. You can please raise your hand. You have microphones on either side of the room, and one will be extended to you.
Yes, sir.
State your name and your outlet when you get a microphone.
Tom Akins, AP Radio. B.A., when you were with the Colts, you said that getting fired by the Steelers was one of the greatest things that ever happened to you. What circumstances now have brought you to the Bucs in a feeling of comfort that this is the next greatest thing that's happening?
Yeah, it really is a lot of similarities, you know. And I always say I was refired in Pittsburgh because I said I retired. But that call from Chuck Pagano kind of changed everything. You know, that year of fantasy, what happened in Indianapolis that year with Chuck being sick. And I learned one thing: if a group of men can have one common cause, they can do miraculous things. And when Chuck was ill, you know, you have teams break down 1, 2, 3, win, 1, 2. Everything in Indianapolis that year was 1, 2, 3, Chuck. And we were going to play for Chuck. Andrew Luck was unbelievable as a rookie, as were the other 6 rookies who were starting on that team. But that opportunity, Chuck being ill, gave me a chance to be a head coach. Probably would never got the chance without it. Thank God he's healthy and well and hopefully coaching this year somewhere. And my own illness has changed a few things. Got everything clean bill of health and extremely happy about that. And yeah, that same feeling, that rejuvenation is back.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes.
Ira Kaufman, Joe Bucks fan. Welcome to Tampa, Bruce.
Thank you.
Bruce, 2013, you take over a 5-11 team. You don't waste any time and you win 10 games first time out. What parallels can you draw between what you're coming into here and the Cardinals in 2013? Oh,
this one's much easier, I believe. When I walked into Arizona, we had no quarterbacks, and we were fortunate enough to sign Drew Stanton, then trade for Carson Palmer. People want to know what's your system. Your system's your players. This coaching staff will build the system to what our players can do. When we meet as coaches, I ask them, please don't tell me what our players can't do. Tell me what they can do, and then build around that. So, yeah, I mean, I think the core's here, and obviously some of the rooms are outstanding, and it was a little bit farther behind.
Bruce, Scott Reynolds from PewterReport.com. You've been a play caller most of your career as an offensive coordinator, and then also with the Cardinals. What prompted you this year to turn over the play calling duties to Byron Leftwich? Yeah,
I've been training guys for this job, and I always said I would never give it up and look over anybody's shoulder until I found one I knew could do it. Harold Goodwin did it for me for a little while, but Byron, I think, is a rising star in this business. What he did with the interim title out there, it wasn't even his offense. It was Mike McCoy's offense, and he did a heck of a job with some rookies. So he's more than ready. Again, I think this coaching staff is going to be outstanding.
Bruce, Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. You've been called the quarterback whisperer. You wrote a book by that title. Certainly, you've worked with a lot of great ones. With Jameis, what is it that you think you need to impart on him first? And is there a certain amount of pressure since this is his final year under his rookie contract?
Oh, no pressure whatsoever. I want him to relax and play the game. Talent's no issue. It's just becoming a little bit smarter. With the Clyde Christensen as his quarterback coach and Byron Leftwich, he's going to be coached as well, I think, as he's ever been, and more prepared than he's ever been, fundamentally and mentally. So it's his team. And I'll tell our players in the first meeting, this isn't my team. It's your team. We'll be as good as you want to be.
Hi, Coach. Dan Lucas from WFLA. Todd Bowles is a guy you know well, who's a really good defensive coach. How much do you plan on working with him, or are you going to just completely leave that to him?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I learned in Indianapolis. Becoming an interim leader, I was never the head coach, but we always had Chuck as the head coach, but the interim leader, there wasn't any time. I learned how to delegate. Do your job, I'll do my job, I'll decide if we go for it on fourth, and it worked. And fortunately, I got Todd in Arizona. If I click over, and I usually don't have to tell him to blitz anyway, but if I click over, bring them all, and he knows it.
Hi, Coach. Jenna Lane, ESPN.
Oh, there you go.
Hi. Speaking of the defense, have you guys already discussed plans? Because this is traditionally a 4-3 team. Have you guys discussed plans on what you're going to do schematically?
Yeah, again, we'll do what our players do best. 3-4, 4-3, some call it over and under. We call it different. They still line up the same. We're not a two-gap team. We're gonna attack, and as long as our players attack, and today's NFL, you're in nickel defense 70% of the time, so you're playing a four-man line. We'll have odd-man lines, we'll have four-man lines. So, yeah, that's just schematics to me.
Bruce, Martin Fenley, Tampa Bay Times. I'm sure you wouldn't have returned if you were concerned at all about your health. But you talked a lot about family, and was it hard to pass muster with them, particularly your wife?
No, she had gradually got on. As more she saw me get excited, I think she started to get excited, and then the reception that the Bucs put on flipped her over the top. So she's in good shape.
Coach Ryan Bass, CBS Tampa. I know you broke bread with Joe Madden over the weekend. What was it that he said that convinced you that you'd want to come out of coaching and coach this team?
Well, I'd already convinced myself, but we're old friends. We grew up fairly close to each other, and Jason actually introduced us a few years back, and we've really hit it off together. So it was more break bread, have fun, and I didn't need any convincing.
Coach Steve Isbitz, JoeBucksFan.com.
Okay, where are you at? Oh, there you go.
We've heard about your relationship with Jameis Winston as a youth, but what has it been, if anything at all, in the last 5 years, and how would you characterize that?
Just knowing each other. I always looked him up when we played him, and told him to keep on going. It's going to be fine. And this is actually the ring I showed him, I think, when he was in 9th or 10th grade, and evidently it made an impression on him. He definitely made an impression on me in that football camp, that's for sure.
Hi, Bruce. Ed Encina, Tampa Bay Times, right here.
Yep.
You talk about delegating to your assistants and the trust that you have in a lot of up-and-coming young coaches. How much will you be a different coach this time around than maybe you were in Arizona in terms of delegating or just in terms of that your past job?
No, it's probably the same. I've always felt it's my job as a coach to get the next group of great coaches ready. Coordinators push them to be head coaches, have the next man. James Betcher was more than ready to take Todd's place and push those guys out into the public and have the next people ready, then have the next guys ready to take their job. So that's one of the reasons we have a large staff, and I feel very strongly about that's one of my jobs.
Hey, Coach. Tom Krasnicki, 95.3 WDAE. Welcome to Tampa.
Thank you.
You talked about your one-gap philosophy on defense, 4-3 or 3-4. Would that include Gerald McCoy?
Well,
your thoughts on him?
I've always had the game plan for him. So all those every player will be evaluated going forward, and obviously we've got some work to do in that area. So saw him this morning. He's working out, and I hope so.
Hey, Coach. Mark Cook with PeterReport.com. Yeah, I know you've got a relationship with Jason Light. What is your relationship going to be as you guys look at draft prospects? Is that something that interests you, and how involved do you want to be as far as what comes aboard in April with this football team?
Yeah, extremely involved. Our coaching staff and our scouting department is one. There's no personnel in coaching. It's all one. It's all Buccaneers. Every decision that we make will be a Buccaneers decision. What's in our best interest? Who gets the credit? I don't care. As long as we get the right guys, and it's all the best decision is for the Bucs.
Bruce, a lot has been talked about with your age. Does the NFL in general throw coaches away at too early an age?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt. Some of the best coaches I ever worked with didn't get an opportunity to be a head coach, and it should have been Tom Moore. Dick LeBeau got a short stint. Howard Mudd. I mean, some great coaches that were just assistant coaches forever. Some guys want that, but I think I was really pushing Vic Fangio this year when I was on television because he deserves a shot. He's a great coach, and John Elway saw that. So Mike Zimmer, I'm hoping that when I was young at 60 and some other guys started getting hired in their 50s, that it's going to be a trend to bring us back. Experience matters in this league.
Coach, Greg Allman with The Athletic here on your right, over here.
Oh, there you go.
Hi. Your coaching staff that you put together, at least the names that we know, has a lot of history with you guys that played for you, guys that have coached for you, some of them 20, even 30 years. How much does it help your confidence to have a staff that is such an extension of you and what you believe in?
Oh, it's extremely. Trust, loyalty, and respect is what we build everything on, and it starts there. And when this staff comes together, they either played for me, coached with me.
Well, head coach Bruce Arians, now head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and again, one of the more colorful characters in the league. It's great to have him back, really, in Tampa. And you heard a little bit of what you heard, Teddy, in different ways that we heard with Vic Fangio, and that is that experience matters, that relationships matter, and that we're not going to overlook a lot of the little things that, when left untouched, become a very big thing.
There's a lot of football in that man.
A lot
of football background, a football life that he can always go through the Rolodex, and I've been through this situation. This is how I did it the first time. I was wrong. I did it right the next time. This is the way to do it. It's what these younger coaches will have to go through on the fly, and there will be growing pains as a coach for a Kingsbury, for Cliff, for LaFleur. So he has the experience. The one thing he said, he talked about family, it being family, and the players and the coaches and all that stuff, and I think about that. And with Arians, it's about you're going to be okay with him if you're a player, if you show you care, if it means something to you, because it means a lot to be A. All right, and if you show him that you don't care and you're out here taking shortcuts, you're not going to be there long, and he's going to have a problem with you, and he's going to let you know. That's the type of coach I think this man is.
This organization needs an infusion of leadership. It does.
I mean, they got one.
And it absolutely, not only on the offensive side with Bruce Arians, but bringing in Todd Bowles, who's an experienced head coach and a guy who's been extremely successful on the defensive side of the ball. They need that type of leadership to move forward and to make that next jump. And it's not just about winning games with the Bucs. It's about the entire culture. And learning how to win football games all over again, learning how to prepare for football games. And I think that's the infusion you'll see with Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles.
Yeah, it was time for Jameis to hear a new voice. Yeah. His entire career, okay? Lovey was there, but Cutter was the offensive voice in Jameis's ear. Then Cutter became the head coach in Jameis's ear. Now you get a different voice in your ear. Jameis needs that.
Well, we actually have Bruce Arians back. He's continuing to answer questions in Tampa. We'll take you back for just a few minutes now.
Just to get that started, they're all different, but the great ones have the same. They have grit. I call it grit. When you go out to evaluate them, you can look at their arm strength, you can look at their athletic ability, but the two muscles that you play the position with, your brain and your heart, are very hard to evaluate until you get them. And Byron had it. Ben, Peyton, Andrew Luck, Tim Couch, all the guys that I've had, Carson Palmer. When they get in a huddle, men follow them. And that's what a quarterback is.
Okay. That'll conclude the question and answer portion. We're going to break down here very quickly for a photo opportunity.
Thank all of you. Thank you so much.
Well, and the conclusion in Tampa, although they're just getting started because they're going to have a lot of questions, and he'll have a lot of answers for the folks in Tampa. And you know what? He does have a history with Jameis Winston. You heard him reference it there. Jameis Winston attended his football camps as a high school kid in Alabama, got everybody's attention, and so those two have somewhat of a shared history, limited, but nevertheless.
I think he's comfortable with Jameis Winston. I think he's just comfortable at that podium. He's been there so many times. And again, we talk about the old and the new. And the new coaches have a great chance to succeed in this league, but it's all new to them. They haven't done this before. The press conference is new. The introduction's new. The questions are new. The media is new. These guys have all done this. This is second nature to them. They know just how this works. They know how the game is played. They know what they can and can't do. Nothing is too big for them at this moment. Bruce Arians completely comfortable in his own skin.
What did Jason
right to that situation?
Sorry. What did Jason Light say? That very first thing that he wanted out of a head coach, it was command the room.
Yeah, first thing, right off the bat.
He brought out the checklist. Not only is he going to command the room, he is going to demand everything from his players. He will demand it. You heard him talking about evaluating players right there. He's talking about brain, and he's talking about your heart. He's not talking about height, speed, and it's important to him, yes, but he wants people that are all in. Yeah. That's the type of coach this is. I'm telling you, Tampa Bay players, you better be ready for a coach that's going to push you hard, because he's coming in ready to go.
What's also interesting is when you hear a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, and they may put together an excellent staff, and they'll do what they think is right. But this guy, there were questions. He said, well, you know what, we're gonna cast the net wide. We're gonna take a look. He knew, and by that I mean he being Bruce Arians, exactly who he wanted. He has got a lifetime of NFL relationships that he can immediately pull from. He knows who he wants. He knows he trusts Todd Bowles. He knows he trusts Byron Leftwich. Locked and loaded, and that alone, Darren, as you know, is a huge advantage.
Yeah, it is. It's trusting. But, I go back to when you look at Tampa Bay, the one guy who's consistent, the one guy who they need to build around is who? Jameis Winston. Yeah. It's Jameis Winston. How does Bruce Arians get Jameis, not only on the field, but off the field, to be a more consistent football player, consistent man, a guy who's going to take on the role as the leader of this football team? That's what Bruce Arians is brought in here to do. It's not just about winning games, but it's to raise this young man, Jameis Winston, and take him to new heights.
Very emotional young man Jameis Winston is. I mean, you're going to need that quarterback whisper mentality to show him how a quarterback thinks, how a quarterback acts. Well, actually, how a quarterback thinks in certain situations. His mentality of being flatlined in the most pressure-packed situation and just thinking. Calming down, slowing everything down for Jameis Winston. I think that's what he needs.
And they believe in Jameis, and he'll be back there. And I think that they want him back there for a long time. And with Bruce there, he's got an opportunity to be there for a long time and get a next contract.
Yes, and I'll say this one thing about what B.A. said. He said, we have a good core here already. I think he's got to look.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely.
You got to look into these players and your core. I mean, the coach just got fired for a reason. And maybe you have the right core, and maybe they just weren't motivated, he's trying to say. But I don't know about the core in Tampa Bay, because there were high expectations on this team, maybe not this year, but a couple years ago when they started to gather some momentum. It's like, what happened to them?
Right.
What happened? The core controls it. What was it, 5-11 for back-to-back seasons, I think it was? That's a losing football team that the core may need a little bit adjusting.
What's great about a guy like Bruce Arians is that you're confident he will look at that core. He'll suss it out. He'll do his due diligence, and he will figure it out. Again, we started with 8 head coaching jobs available. We are down to 2. Only the Bengals and the Dolphins remain in the hunt for a new head coach. We will be back to wrap it all up and talk about what's next right after this.